Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to day 51 of our F125 wet hot lap and setup series. Yes, we return this weekend here to Lusail, to Qatar, and of course the Qatar Grand Prix. If you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Vegas, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. But yeah, obviously we've got Abu Dhabi coming out early next week, and then the 3 final reverse tracks, and then we will have officially completed all of our F125 wet setups, and obviously the dry ones as well. After that, I'm probably going to dive into the F2 setups, and then I will be going through and updating all of the setups as well inside this game. Of course, if you're new around here and you don't know what this is about, I basically go through, I talk you around every circuit inside F125, where your braking references should be, where kind of your markers should be, everything like that, and what gears you want to be using. I provide you with a wet race-ready setup for the game as well, and yeah, like I said, we obviously kind of talk you through, and then last but not least, I leave you with a hot lap. Of course, as always, timestamps will be linked down below if you just want to head to a certain part of this video. A massive thank you to everybody for their continued support as well. I am working behind the scenes on like a Google Sheet that you're all going to be able to access as well if you want kind of extra help with these, and obviously just means you can view them all in one place as well. But yeah, make sure you get yourself subscribed if you find these useful. We're trying to hit 15k subs on the channel as well. But yeah, without further ado though, let's head out onto the track. Well, making our way then through the final couple of corners, getting ready to start a lap here of Qatar. Of course, this circuit, really weird because it's quite fast, but it does require a lot of downforce inside the F1 games. As we get the power down nice and tidy out of that final corner, of course you're going to keep the car over on the left-hand side for what is normally the 1 DRS zone around this lap. Get the car all the way up to 8th gear as we make our way in towards turn 1. It can be a little bit bumpy, but you want to brake just as you go past the 50-meter board in towards that first corner. Bring the car down to 3rd gear, try to get the inside wheel wedged over that apex curb, and then just as the circuit opens up, that's when you want to get on the throttle. Short shift up through 4th and 5th, and then just as you go past the exit curb on the outside, that's when you want to bring it back down to 4th gear once again. Really try to maximise your run off the corner, and then turn 3 should be completely flat out. Those first couple of turns, the back end will try and step out a little bit underneath you, so just be very, very careful of oversteer. Up at the top of the hill, braking just past the 50-meter board, you're going to go from 6th gear back down to 4th. Try to make this double right-hander, basically just one smooth motion. Make sure you get the car over the curbing to maximise the track width as well, and then back up through 5th gear once more. Braking at the 50-meter board for this next corner though, one of the slowest on the entire lap. You want to get the car all the way down to 2nd gear, and then once the circuit begins to open up on the exit, that's when you want to get on the loud pedal. Avoid taking too much of that outside curb though, otherwise it would just upset the rear end. Braking at about 40 meters out then, you want to go from 4th gear back down to 3rd, hug the apex through this next corner, but you can get on the throttle nice and early as the circuit arcs back around to the left hand side. In towards this next one, I'm adamant if you get it nailed, it is completely flat out, even in wet conditions, but I have to just blend out the throttle slightly to make sure we get the weight over the front. In towards this next corner though, you'll see where the circuit kind of arcs around for the short track. Obviously you've kind of got this like point on the outside of the corner. You want to brake just before that in the wet conditions. Be really, really careful that you don't lock up the front brakes. But again, this is another corner where you can get on the throttle really early as the circuit massively opens up on the exit there. So a nice early apex before you get on the loud pedal and up in towards Sector 3. Of course, these next few corners, very, very iconic around this venue. You're going to be up in 7th gear. The first one is completely flat out. Downshift to 6th gear though through the second part there. Again, making sure you attack the curb as best as you can. Use all of the available width down to 5th gear through the 3rd one, and then as we make our way in towards the left-hander there, leave it in 5th gear. Once again, a big blend of throttle as you try and get the weight over the front. One more corner to go, then you want to bring the car back over to the left-hand side, braking just at the 50-meter board, down into 3rd gear, get the car rotated through, and that is going to be a lap then of the Lusail circuit. Like I said, this one is very much about maximising the width of the circuit. I found in league racing before, it is incredibly easy though to pick up track limits warnings and penalties as well. So if you're doing a league race with strict track limits, I would prioritise avoiding penalties above everything else because you will gain a lot of freebies come the end of a Grand Prix as well there. But Yeah, like I said, where this circuit is quite high downforce, the DRS isn't as important, especially in the wet, it's completely irrelevant. So yeah, let's head back to the pit lane, and I'll talk you guys through the setup. Well, here we are then, having a look at the setup on the car then. 4741 for your aerodynamics here. One of the most aggressive presets I've done all season. If you guys obviously watched the video we did in Vegas, I mentioned there that obviously lower wing seems to be becoming the meta anyway inside F125, but that is very skewed towards the rear wing. But obviously where this track is, like I said, it's quite a high-speed venue, but there's a lot of quite twisty and technical sections. I'm running really, really high front aero, but then quite low rear aero to give you the speed down the back straight. It will hopefully, oh sorry, the front straight even. It will give you a little bit of instability. It will make the car a bit more understeery, but honestly, I would suggest if you're really struggling with it, bring the front aero down to about 45. That should obviously decrease the difference in the wing angle and therefore make it a bit more stable. I would try to avoid upping the rear wing aero though, unless you're really struggling with it, because otherwise, yeah, people are just going to fly past you, especially the AI, if you're using this in career mode. 125 for your on and off throttle diff. Again, exactly our normal settings inside this game. Minus 3.4, minus 1.9, 0.02, and 0.12 for your camber and toe angles. Again, pretty standard stuff for F125. And then 37.7 for your front and rear suspension. 6.14 for your anti-roll bars. Again, you run firm front suspension, soft front roll bar, and then vice versa at the back of the car. 24.50 for your ride height. This circuit, I expected it to be quite flat, but there's actually a lot of bumps around here inside this game, especially like on the run towards turn 1. So you have got to be careful, otherwise you're just going to scrub off more speed than it's worth having by running any lower ride heights. 54.97 for your brake bias and pressure. Again, fairly standard stuff. We're actually running a slightly more rearward brake bias here than we do a lot of other venues, just again to try and get the weight rotated around the back of the car. And then last but not least, 29 PSI on the front left, on the front right, 29.5 on the front left, 22.6 on the rear right, 24 on the rear left. This is a circuit that absolutely obliterates the left-hand side tyres, so if you run those pressures higher than you do on the right-hand side, you A, get a little bit of the benefit of the grip through the corners, but B, it also means the tyre wear is a bit more even as well around the entire car. It is a tricky one to get right, of course. Tyre temperatures will be a bit different in the wet conditions, but I've left this with the left side bias still, just to hopefully give you guys a bit of a helping hand. Thank you all, though, as always, so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. We will be back, hopefully on Monday, out in Abu Dhabi, the final kind of normal track inside this game. But yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with a hot lap for now, though, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Right, that's us pushed down into P15.
Could have been better, but I'll take P2, thanks to Rob.